Today we'll be covering how to implement user impersonation within Descope. We'll be working from the Descope documentation as a reference. Here we can find an overview of user impersonation, use cases, security and ethics, and then the necessary flows that we'll need to generate. Let's start by creating the consent flow. This flow will allow the user to consent to user impersonation. This is an example flow based on the user step-up flow. We use this flow as an example so once embedded in the application, if the user is already authenticated, this essentially is a form of step-up or MFA. The key items within the flow that we need to review are the update, user, and impersonation consent. So here we basically have a screen saying allow or don't allow. If it allows, then we come down to this and we update the user impersonation consent. And then that takes a time expiration. So when we look at our flow, the user logs in via a magic link or social. Once verified, it comes here to the allow impersonation screen. And this is a simple screen that's asking if they want to allow it. If they say allow, it'll go down to the user update impersonation consent. Otherwise, it will go down to don't allow. So we can look here and see that it's configured for 24 hours. We can now use Descope Explorer to test out our new flow. We can copy the flow ID from here, replace the flow ID here, gather the project ID from the project settings page, click update. Now we can go through our flow link, and then here we can click allow impersonation. And now once we go back over to the users and roles and expand this page, we can then see that the consent expires in 24 hours. Now let's create the user impersonation flow. We're going to mainly use any flow that logs in a user. However, we're going to ensure that the user has the impersonate permission. And when going to impersonate the user, you'll include this item here, which is the impersonate user input within your flow. And then after that, you'll then add the user impersonate within the flow. And then once you've impersonated the user, you're going to have the sub user. So this is the user that is the actor. Here we have our impersonate user flow. So the user will log in as normal. This is just via OTP email. And then we'll verify. Once the verification is complete, we'll go to this screen where we've added the impersonate user. So this will basically take the login ID of the user we're going to impersonate. And then we'll continue to the user impersonate action, which we need to select whether we want to validate user consent or not. In this case, we are. For more information about this, read the section within the docs. And then we'll end our flow. This task validates that the user has the impersonation permission. So in our case, if we look within our users, I'm going to be using this Chris plus admin, who I've assigned the tenant admin role. I've also assigned the impersonate permission to the tenant admin role. Let's now try out our flow. We'll come in and copy the ID, come back over, and since we're already in the same project, we just need to update the flow ID, log in with the user. And this user has the impersonate permission. Click continue. I get an OTP code. We can copy our OTP code in, click submit, and then we're going to type the user ID, which we're going to impersonate. So we'll be impersonating this user here. And now we see that we're logged in as this user, which matches this user ID. And then we're also marked as the actor here. We come back to the audit trail within Descope and look for the last 15 minutes. We see this audit trail showing the impersonation. So we can search for impersonate, and we will then see this audit information. It'll show who the actor was and other details of this action. For both of these flows, when you embed them within your application, reference the Getting Started guide. So here, instead of giving the sign up or end flow, you'll end up giving the flow ID name of the flow that you created for either the impersonate flow or the gather user consent flow. To summarize this tutorial, we created the flow allowing a user to grant impersonation consent. We also created a flow for impersonating a user as a tenant admin. We also briefly covered how to embed the flow within your application, similar to how you embed other flows.